So I'm Jason. As was mentioned earlier, I'm an evangelist at Datadog. But I go to a lot of these DevOps days, and last year I was at DevOps Days with Nathan Harvey from Chef, and he mentioned talking about coffee over DevOps. He actually flipped that. I thought that's a great idea because everybody loves coffee. Coffee's delicious, has loads of caffeine. In fact, the commonly held origin is that coffee was discovered by a goat herder who noticed his goats were energized after eating coffee. And everybody loves coffee. In particular, Canadians love coffee. Third highest consumption in the world. The average Canadian drinks over 150 liters of coffee every year. It's pretty amazing. Now, when I say there's three waves of coffee, well, the first wave of coffee was commodity coffee. Not much different from military rations. You had cans of pre-ground, horrible coffee, and despite what Folgers would have you believe, not the best part of waking up. It really was about drinking something hot rather than something that tasted good. But in 1971, Starbucks came along, and they started what would become the second wave of coffee. See, Starbucks took an Italian approach to coffee. They roast their coffee in a dark Italian style, they make Italian-style drinks, they use Italian words like venti and grande to confuse you. And they also take an Italian approach to coffee culture. So Starbucks aimed to become your third place. Your life would be home and work and Starbucks. You see, your third place is where you find your community. So by placing this value on community, they really placed a value on people. And that's why Starbucks started to offer more benefits to their employees. It also led to the rise of things like fair trade and direct trade. Because when you start placing a value on people, you realize that coffee farmers are people too. And when you realize that coffee farmers are people, you really start to value the things that they value, like the beans. That led to the rise of the third wave of coffee, where we start to roast beans and brew coffee beans to accentuate their native characteristics. And it didn't take long for customers to start caring about coffee beans as well. So you learn that when you have these farmers and you care about them, you care about their coffee beans, you start to try to brew your own coffee in the best ways possible. I mean, how many of you have now started using French press or pour over rather than machine drip? How many of you prefer coffee from certain parts of the world, right? We start to care about these things, not only because they're delicious, but because we care about the people behind them. So let's talk a little bit about DevOps, the history of DevOps. Well, the first wave of DevOps really was Dev and Ops, right? It's the tradition of silos and throwing things over the wall. Much like coffee farmers selling to commodity traders who sold to people who just put things in tin cans. Now, I argue that we are currently in the second wave of DevOps. The second wave of DevOps is just like coffee, where we realize that people are humans. Dev and Ops are people, we treat each other humanely, we're all on the same team working together. And much like Starbucks, who tried to create community, the second wave of DevOps is largely about community. We're all here at DevOps Days. We have meetup groups, we have Slack channels where we get together and we share information, and we try to make our industry better. But I argue that we actually need a third wave of DevOps. And the third wave of DevOps is when we can stop focusing on each other as people and treating each other humanely is just the way we do things. And we can actually start to focus on building better applications and better digital experiences for our customers. Much like how, well, actually, other slide. Yeah, so the way that we do this is actually that we need to stop focusing on automation. We've been overly focusing on automation and essentially trying to get self-serve ops for devs, right? And that just changes ops into devs. We want DevOps, not dev-dev. The way that we do this is we start getting involved up front in projects. In the same way that we have baristas and coffee roasters visiting coffee farms to understand the nuances of beans, we really want to start getting it so that we are starting to be involved up front in projects, so we can understand the nuances of code, and we can understand the business motivations behind what's being built. And in that way, we can start to build better infrastructure to better service the applications that are being built. Ultimately, this will affect our customers. They'll never understand the technical underpinnings in the same way that I'll never understand why I love coffee from Indonesia, but not so much from Kenya. But ultimately, I do know that I have a preference, and I know that many of you have coffee preferences as well. And similarly, our customers will have preferences for the digital experiences that we're building. Because if digital experiences are the wave of the future, if they're the way that companies are going to differentiate each other, then third wave DevOps is really how we're going to make our customers, our businesses successful. Thanks.